turn on my screen. Welcome to Deluge. Insert other thing here. Can I make you text speed? Let's make text speed a bit more. Oh, there's voice volume. Skip unseen text after choices. Window full screen. That's what I want, right? Okay, yep, that's what I wanted. Rollback side. I don't know what the fuck rollback is, but that's fine. Skip unseen text after choices transitions. Oh, okay. Let's just start. Honestly. Oh my god, it's fucking leaves! Here we go! I'm already in full screen mode. Skip any time to access in-game menus. Fine. Game will autosave before each decision point. You can create manual saves throughout the game. In-game menu. We'd love you playing early access of the game. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. Please consider sending us your feedback via leaves.soka.org and through the Steam Community Hub. Okay, so here's the thing. Some of these free games were very much starting games or alphas or stuff like that are free. The second to last one is going to be one of those. So So as part of this, I'm actually going to leave Steam reviews. Watch out for my spicy Steam review of Halloween Trick or Treat. I got off the bus at the street corner while an old saying ran through my head. Anyone who lives within their means suffer from lack of imagination. By then, I had wasted yet another weekend fruitlessly inquiring the local businesses for part-time employment. You should have tried during harvest, they would reply, regrettably, if they didn't laugh in my face. I was beginning to run out of options. Due to setbacks in my father's work, the same that led to him to slash my weekly allowance, we were forced to relocate to Abbotsford, an agricultural town with low cost of living. I hope it has like English voice acting. Like that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot, especially like decent English voice acting. But I feel like it adds so much more charm, and my voice won't die as fast. It felt like the fucking apocalypse. I lost my home, my friends, my city life, and now I couldn't even get a job. But in retrospect, I'll admit these were peaceful days where money was the greatest problem on my carefree mind. Well, I mean, there's two other problems on my mind, but I mean, they were attached to the same thing. It was before I realized I had a stalker. Sigma, help! I actually got jump scared. What is this intro? I've known a great light in the sea. Have you seen the eyes of Leviathan? Oh yes, Leviathan's pretty cool. I met that guy. Can't hold his alcohol. These tombs have witnessed the dawn of man. The centuries look upon us now. Thanks, sentience, tatas. That's nice to know. A boundless mass of human being flowing in a stream without banks. Deluge. The Threnden of crashing waves. When grapes of wrath have borne their fruit, when serpents coil through endless depths, decades of friends will converge until the blah 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 title name. So you're my stalker? Her name's Ina. Oh, I thought it said it had voices. Her name was Ina, a strange determined girl. Though she was in the same class as I wouldn't be able to say who her friends were. Abe. Wait, my name's Abe? I'm Abe. I have no idea who the fuck you are. They say a man's only as good as his labor. I've got just the thing for you. Please follow me up to my office. She has offices? She herself has an office? Part 1. Pastoral. So I've set an exact amount of time for all these games. Because honestly, I cannot. I followed her into a small, cluttered room that was situated next to the teacher's lounge. Is she a teacher? I think my teacher was a student in my class. So at like 3, I'm gonna have to stop this. I think. It's so unbearable hot in here. Let me take off that horrible uniform. Whoa. Dude, she dropped it, crumbled into a ball. Just slam dunked him in the corner. How was that coat and tie like training uniforms? Did you see how much meaty weight was to that animation? I don't understand why they're making us wear viscose? It's practically tropical outside. Here's the thing, I only have like 4 female voices. And I don't know what I want her female voice to be. Is she my stalker? Do I even have a stalker? Did my just perverted mind just instantly went to, oh, any girl following me for a short distance is stalking me? I guess I'm gonna give her my stereotypical girl voice, and then just try to get a bitchy vibe from one, I guess. She turned to me. You're anxious, so let's get started. Let me explain what your duties will entail. I need someone to deliver a newspaper. Don't worry, I can't see a panic forming in your eyes. Brains, however, are entirely optional for this job. I don't know why she's slowly becoming a bitch. She cut me off. If there's one thing this village is famed for, it's the sterling quality of our newspaper, the Sunday Obit. Or at least it is since I took over as editor-in-chief. The Abbot doesn't play games, you know? 4th place in the national ranking of school newspapers, an honorable mention by the Winning Mirror. I didn't know we had a school newspaper? A school newspaper? No, it's much more than that. Crime, corruption, unsolved mysteries. Did you know that we were the first to break news on the Stanford House affair? And I have so much more up my sleeve. I had something more respectable in my mind. It's better than nothing. I'll take it. I mean, I've been bitching about not having a job for like a while now. I might as well take the job with the best waifu right here. Great. Let me show you my mock-up for this week issue. Why didn't it give her a thing? It's the Bucolic cover-up. Notwithstanding a year, something police investigated onto a marvelous 97-old seasonal laborer Chargo recent investigation. I can't read it. This week we're reporting on an interesting case. It's linked to a murder that happened last summer. Quite something to before you arrived here. Back then, we brought the news of the seasonal worker who fell victim to a violent attack on one of the local farms. It was late at night. He was on his way to his sleeping quarters after his shift ended when suddenly he was struck behind by an anonymous assailant. Ina, in her apparent excitement, had begun tapping her right hand rhythmically against her skirt. She had to keep pace. Her time is worth money, and every time she hits it, that's a second. She got to keep talking faster. His colleagues discovered him the next morning, more dead than alive. They transferred him to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Sadly, he wasn't able to get testimony before he died. Poor guy. A full year has passed since the fateful night, so I decided to do due diligence. I went down to the police station to ask how the investigation into the attack was coming along. However, the reception told me the case had been closed. Case closed, I asked her. Then who was the culprit? But she said the perpetrator had never been found. It was then I asked her if I could see the case file. She just mumbled something and directed me to the exit. I know exactly what's going on down here. They never did a proper investigation. They went to the local Krispy Kreme, ate a bunch of donuts, went into a small coma, and then when they showed up to the actual dead body, they just said, "Ah shit, it was Dave from accounting. That asshole. I know, they did that. You know the guy who owns the farm where it all happened? He has ties to the town mayor. He's fucking hate Dave. They're corrupted to the bone, each and every one of them. This place is ruled by the small caucus of cronies that they can do as they like as long as their power goes unchecked. That's why they need a quality newspaper to shine a light on the darkness. Amen." I could detect a tremble in her voice. "We really need a paper boy. Do it for the community, Abe. These poor wretches need you." The afternoon was drawing to an end. By that time, I had already begun to notice the first signs of Ina's compelling presence, though I ascribed it to youthful eccentricity at the time, not paying any further attention. Wordless, we gathered our belongings, head towards the stairs. Let's get down to business. We just have under 2,000 subscribers. I'll pay you 2 cents per newspaper. That should have had a decent salary for a morning's work. In the end, deliver some paper. Now remember, the printer will deliver tomorrow at 5 in the morning, so I want you to see you here no later than 5:15 a.m. I'm not much of a morning person. See you then. God damn it. I already have max 2 hours of sleep last night. I don't need to be waking up even earlier. I gotta stay up really late. Really, really late. I was ingesting liquids. Morning came way too soon. It didn't help that I went to sleep at like 3 a.m. So you're finally here. The delivery guys left ages ago. I could have used some help with the boxes. Ina didn't appear at least a bit thrilled to see me. Here's a list of all the addresses, sorted by proximity to the school. Please try not to get lost. I'm off now. I have a lot of reading to catch up on. You can call me when you're done. She handed me a small business card with a number on it. Chief editor of the Sunday Abbot, which printed below her name in tasteful lettering. Super tasteful. I have a question. She, though, appeared anxious to leave. She turned around at the last moment hesitantly. What? So why is it called the Sunday Abbot? What do you mean? That doesn't make much sense, does it? It's delivered on a Saturday. That's just the way it's always been. We deliver on Saturdays and people read it on Sundays. Some of our subscribers are very old-fashioned, you know. They wouldn't want us working on the Sabbath day. Anyway, good luck with your first day on the job. Okay, I resigned myself to the arduous labor, even though it was in October already, and unnatural sticky heat permeated through all the work I did was more bearable. Was that in game? How quickly my situation had taken a turn for the worse. No more than 2 months ago, I'd been enjoying my life among the nation's elites, headed for a bright role on the world stage. I would be pained to see myself now spreading gutter journalism for a slave's wage. Then out of nowhere, a snapping shadow lunged at me. The street erupted in violent mayhem as I fought to keep its razor-sharp fangs from my jugular, using my messenger bag to shield myself from its all-devouring clutches. I was in a state of panic, frantically attempting to block it as it strikes as I fought path to safely. Without further hesitation, I leapt over a garden wall, away from what I figured was the hound's territory. I just broke into a girl's house. I must have ran at least 4 blocks before collapsing onto a playground bench. It took some time to come to my senses, all the while cursing Nina for not disclosing the dangers of the dog. Dude, what was his name? I don't remember his name. I'm gonna call him OC right now. OC, let me tell you right now, that was a cute, adorable puppy. What you should have done is just shove your wrist farther into its mouth until it calmed down, and then pet it ferociously until you Stockholm it into loving you. Only reasonable decision. Oh, his name was Abe. If I encounter one more dog today, I will definitely... Sigurd! Oh, the sound of heavy breathing, I could discern a fragile voice calling out. Sigurd! Please stop hiding, Sigurd. A girl appeared, her eyes as bright as the summer sky. Hi, are you delivering the mail? She seemed distracted by my sudden presence. No sign of her prior distress remained. Calling it mail might be an overstatement. It's just a weekly paper. I'd love to work as a postman one day. The honor, the excitement, to see the delight in people's eyes that they received life-altering news. I let out a self-depreciating chuckle. I know someone you might like to meet. Sigurd! She was at it again at the top of her lungs. Are you looking for someone? It's just my little brother, Sigurd. He loves playing hide and seek. He made me count to 100 this time. But when I turned around, he disappeared without a trace. Isn't that the object of the game? That was almost half an hour ago. Usually he doesn't stray so far. Well, I really hope you find him. I have to move now. They don't pay me by the hour. Will you please check out for Sigurd? He's wearing a light red fleece. I told him it was too warm for his winter clothes, but he never listens. Sure thing. I'll keep my eyes wide open. You're the best. Please send him over if you find him. Every mansion's had a garden. Every garden had a gate. Every cursed gate added 3 more seconds to my seemingly endless route. I really didn't mind the apartment complexes. They had their letterboxes stacked conveniently together, but these gardens were ruining my average. And I gradually coming to the conclusion that Ina had played me for a fool when suddenly... the infernal beast returned! Without abandon, I began ferociously snapping at my leg. Oh my god, it's a Karen! Oh my god, she's so hot, I want her to speak to my manager. Which is me. I'm my manager. There, Virus. The man's doing an important job. Deftly, she wrangled the dog away from my quivering limbs. I'm sorry, Virus is usually very kind, but it takes him a while to get used to strangers. Your dog has been terrorizing me all morning, madam. Oh, Fires isn't my dog. He lives here. The community has adopted him. Are you... Wait. Okay, I know I'm in high school, right? I'm in high school, but is she a MILF? She seems older than the other kids, which seem roughly my age. I'm gonna say she seems older. I don't know why. I'm thinking that. Is she a MILF? I think I found the choice waifu right now. Dude, Sigma, hear me out here. If I go down this path, I can get the MILF, and I can play with the doggo. It's a flippin' win-win. I see no downsides here. You must be new in town. I'm Karen. I work at the city council. Welcome to the beautiful municipality of Abbotsford. I'm so glad you're willing to do this job. I heard Ina had some unfortunate resignations as of late, but a small town like this really needs free press. Ina mentioned something along those lines. I handed her a paper as though I was about to proceed on my route. Her eyes fell on the headline. Wait a minute, this seems interesting? She skimmed over the front page. A grave expression came over her face. This is very interesting indeed, what you've dug up here. You should be careful, though. This is a very small community. She uttered the warning with concern in her voice. I'm just the paper boy. I know. I apologize. This is very interesting. And with these words, she proceeded to head back towards the council building, till I suddenly recalled May's words. Wait, have you seen a little boy around here somewhere? She turned around, a meaningful expression appearing on her face. I figured you run into May? Don't worry too much. Little Sigurd always shows up at the end. Fucking little cunt. He always disappears for like half a day. And when he comes back, he's hit like 9 packages of like cookies. He just hits up the old ladies and just lets them feed him until he's done. He's fat now. Though the fortunate may be entitled to days off, my fate is governed by a crueler power. If you want to experience hell on earth, I implore you to take a paper round. My lands lacerated, my legs buckling. Sigurd, where are you, Sigurd? Please come out. Mom will be angry. Her voice was reduced to a feeble wail. I hurried in the direction of the sound. Oh no, she's crying. Sigurd still hasn't come back. He's never been away this long. She was teary-eyed, shivering like a newborn calf. Please, Sigurd, please. Sigurd. And as she pleaded, her voice grew fainter, as if her last of her strength was slipping away. Suddenly, her eyes, which had been vibrant blue a heartbeat ago, turned an ashen white. A silent murmur escaped her lips. Sigurd, please. Sigurd, no. He's only 5. Please don't take him. She has lost her prior vitality. May has become wholly possessed by a paralyzing entrancement. Staring into her pale white eyes, I could determine her essence was very far away at the time, a faint light in the distance, close to dying out. Please, I promise you'll be good. Please let him stay with me. Sigurd! Her knees buckled. I had not been catched enough. Had I not been fast enough to catch her, she would have been plummeted to the ground. You know, when you say the word plummeted, I imagine it's like 8 feet down or something. Something like a story or some shit. Something like that. I stood there, trying my best to keep her upright. I felt her strength gradually return. As suddenly as it appeared, the entrancement seemed to dissipate from her body. She remained quiet for a long time. I'm sorry. Her voice was calm, almost devoid of emotion. I'm sorry, I forgot Sigurd isn't here anymore. I apologize for causing you trouble. Without any further clarification, she disappeared into the night. This is dark, man. This is dark. I picked up the phone. Where are you? What happened? I clenched from the outrage in her voice. Nothing, I'm back home from a long day's work. But these boxes, there's still 3 boxes here. That means we have disappointed subscribers. You know, the job's killing me. I'll be contacting the Silver Label Board. You better finish this first thing in the morning. I swear, if we even have one canceled subscription over this, I'll be docking your pay until Christmas. Sure, Ina. The cataclysm of abuse is ended. She remained quiet for a while before resuming in a more subdued voice. Please be here early tomorrow morning. We need to deliver the remaining papers before the fundies get up for church. Sure, Ina. Then Monday came. Holy shit. Monday came around already. It was like a welcome relief. I sat in class, dozed a little, plagued at times by flashbacks of rabid dogs. A girl approached me after classes ended. I understand how summer's drawing glade and that we're all young in our best spirits, but I stared at her uncomprehendingly. I'd just like to know that May is strictly off limits. Alarm bells went off in my head. May, you saw us on Saturday? But I can assure you I only had the purest intentions. I have no idea what you're talking about. You know, I feel like this is the better one. I love drama. I'm just gonna go straight into the drama. Oh, and I'm sure you did, and that you'll continue to. Just realize that this is a small community. Rumors travel fast in a place like this. If only she realized that romance was the furthest thing from my mind right now. Look at that skirt. Look at those thighs, man. Look at. Explained to me that May had a learning disability, that the school board was having trouble placing her in a suitable education. For the time being, May was being taught by a small group of church volunteers. Once she realized I was sympathetic to situation, overall stance softened. It's good to see a new face in school. So how are you enjoying the Isle of Abbott? My name is Rika, by the way. Rika Cuepa. I apologize for not introducing myself sooner. And I apologize if I fucking butcher any names. Or, I'll be completely honest, I don't even know if I'm even saying Abbott right, or even if it is Abbott. Pleased to meet you. I'm Abe. Abe? Abe Jensen? Oh, I heard your father would be coming. It's good to know he finally arrived. He should know my dad, the pastor in town. I'm afraid we're not a very religious family. Oh, he'll know my dad, I'm sure of it. Dealing with the pastor's daughter, I should probably be on my best behavior. You know, I'm gonna do that. Oh, I've been teased about that more than enough. Religion is a lot less heavy when you grow up around it, you know? Due to my father's status, people always been treating me like a sarcastic, sacrosanct being? Far-right glance appeared in her eyes. I've always loved to read about fantastic creatures, like the behemoth and the leviathan, and the motherfucking goddamn quay. Did you ever hear about the leviathan? She began to recite the ancient tomes summoning the leviathan. I have a great light in the sea. You may have seen the eyes of Leviathan, for his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. When Leviathan is hungry, he emits a fiery breath from his mouth, and causes the waters of the deep to boil. She let out a indignant squeal of delight. That would give me nightmares. Isn't it exciting? Oh, I wonder what Leviathan felt like, submerged all alone in the pitch black darkness. She ran her fingers tenderly through her flaxen hair. Just then, the quiet corridor erupted in ritual clamor. No loitering during club time. I need you in my office right now. Ina, oh, I'm so glad to hear you found someone for the newspaper. I'm not on the school paper. It's not a school paper. It's an independent periodical with 2,000 paying subscribers. Come on, Abe, follow me. I feel so sorry for Dragon with me doing this. Afraid she might ignite in ignorant fury over my performance during the weekend, I timidly wait for her to begin speaking. Her initial outbursts, however, appeared to be more transient in nature. She was just sitting there, paging through a heavy book. To what I felt like an eternity, she began to speak. Did you notice the crickets yesterday? I remained silent, assuming no answer was expected. The crickets sing during July and August. It's a sound they make to attract potential mates. She presents to start clicking at me. I think I heard them chirping last night. Something this year isn't right. Their song tapered off a bit in September, but now they are out in full force again. I'm doing research on this for an article. It's a chore, so I'm going to ask you to take over some of my other duties. I will need you to cover the weekly progression section for this week. The what now? The weekly progress is a recurring editorial where we write something about the local event or inhabitant of the town. Sadly, I inherited from the previous editor-in-chief. It's a community favorite, so I haven't been able to ditch it yet. But never mind, it's only 300 words. You can write about anything or anyone you see around town. Seems perfectly suited for you. I haven't agreed to any of this. If you want to keep your job, you have to be a team player. Does that mean I'll be paid? Don't get any ideas. She returned to her book. Assuming I was no longer needed, I dipped. On my way out, she called after me. Say, that girl you were talking to. Rika? Rika? What about her? What did she say to you? I stood silent for a second. Nothing much. She approached me in the hallway. Apparently her family is involved with religion. Her father is one of the most powerful figures in town, the leader of the Church of Abbotsford. Whatever that means. Ina stared at me with intent gaze. I want you to befriend Rika. If you get close to her, we'll be privy to a trove of information on the sordid power structure within the community. God damn it. All these words. We'll have so many exclusives. Wouldn't that be a pretty underhand reason to befriend someone? You're a journalist now. You have to play the game in order to get to the bottom of things. It's okay. She was thick enough for me to make this work. I thought it was just a paper for her. Befriend Rika? I'll be glad to, Chief. Well, look how eager you become now that a pretty girl is involved. Was there something strange? Rika said. I believe she said this place is called the Isle of Abbot. Does that make sense to you? The Isle of Abbot, it's just a phrase the old people use. Do you know this town was once surrounded by miles and miles of water? This place, you can't be serious. We couldn't be farther from the sea down here. She sighed. You may have noticed how the village of Abbotsford lies slightly elevated above the surrounding fields. Not really. Well, let me show you on the map. She browsed around her phone for a while before handing it to me. Look at the situation as is today. You can see the town of Abbotsford right down there, surrounded by a sprawling farmland of Marshpalder. However, it didn't always look like this. Marshpalter is an artificial island constructed during the first half of the 20th century. It was initially conceptualized as a way to meet the rising demand for housing and farmland. The lake used to be an inland sea, but they built a great dam in the north, severing its connection to the ocean. These were times of unfettered progress. The national government didn't shy away from major developmental progress. They stemmed off of a large area of water before proceeding to pump it dry. That's how stretched the land was formed, which would become the Marshpalter. She took back her phone and called up a different map. This is what it used to look like before 1942. As you can see, there's no sign of the Marshpalter yet. The Lake of Vale is still an island sea. And Abbotsford was an island. Indeed it was. A few gray bears around here might still recall the day when the last of the water was pumped out and their homestead was an island no more. Una put away her phone and returned to her book, softly muttering to herself. That incessant chirping, I can hear it even here. I wonder if they've entered a second mating season. Maybe Splinger was right. I left her office immediately. As I walked back home that afternoon, my mind was preoccupied exploring all the different strategies I could employ to restore my lavish city life. I figured I'd stay at my aunt's house until I'd be able to finance a place of my own. That, or I could find a comfortable bridge to sleep under. I was so preoccupied with my thoughts I didn't notice a familiar figure approaching.
That's where you're wrong. It's a cave. It's always a fucking cave. Make a den in a cave. Live the dragon life, damn it!
Dragon! The figure wasn't a cave! It was a blonde woman!
Caves! It's always a cave!
Hi there. Come to the stones with me? I looked back when I realized who it was. It was a cave, apparently. Dragon told me it was a cave. Sorry, I'm not allowed to talk to you. What? Are you joking? Who said that? That, Quaper girl cornered me after class. She let out a childish giggle. Rika, oh, she's just teasing you. No way. I'll definitely hit with my head up pike. If you're sure no one will catch us, it's fine. We'll be fine. There's no one around this time of day. I followed her along the short country trail, which led us to an opening in the trees. In the search were two massive megaliths, partly buried in the ground. The surrounding area seemed well maintained. No, those are rocks. That's just a rock.
Your mud-smashing addiction's gone too far, Rosa.
Do you see these giant stones? There are many of them scattered across the island. I like to come here whenever I'm sad. They warm me up inside. Dragon, she took me to a cave!
You know where I go when I feel sad? It's to the cave! It's always the cave!
That's where she took... Are you her? Dragon, when did you become a blonde anime woman?
I was always a blonde anime woman in another life. Hey, how you doing? I sell used cars! My name's Danny! Danny! I sell used cars! Come on down! Mama, used cars, they dirt cheap!
In my cave! Danny's used car cave. She was right. When I placed my head on one of the rocks, I could feel it emanating a mysterious radiating heat. This rock was a car! Though I figured this was likely due to midday sun. So, are you feeling sad right now? She blushed. No. To be honest, I come here every night. It's not too far from the farm, you know? She gave me a tour of the archaeological site, leading around the megaliths at least 3 times. She kept on going back to that cave. She really liked the cave. Then she ascertained that we had observed the stones from every possible angle. She drew my attention to a small placard. SSS. She appeared to have a difficulty deciphering the writing. She looked up at me. Hey, what does this say? Bent over to the text, which appeared perfectly legible to me. I began to read. Swifter bent culture. I started to read on, not questioning her curious display of illiteracy. It says here these stones were erected by an ancient civilization. They used them as grave mounds and as a place to venerate their deities. Stared at me with a captivated expression in her eyes. Please, read more, read more. The Swifterband people lived here between 7,500 and 550 years ago, during the early Neolithic. They were an early agrarian society that held livestock, but also resorted to hunting at times. The stones where these megaliths were made weren't native to the region, but were brought here from Scandinavia during the Ice Ages. That means they were carried here by large sheets of glacial ice? When the Shale Ice Age ended, about 13,000 years ago, the rocks and debris that were caught by the ice stayed behind. Stared off into the distance, making me fear for a second she would revert to a mysterious episode again, like on the night after I first met her. But she remained fully aware. She began to speak. Isn't it that a beautiful thought? When the Swifterband people found these stones, they had been lying here for more than 100,000 years. Centuries since they have passed in no more than a heartbeat. Then she erupted in a smile as bright as the setting sun. It makes me so happy to think that these stones will still be standing here in another 100,000 years. People will move, kingdoms will fall, but these stones will remain. It'll be like nothing has really changed. I couldn't say it was a reassuring thought, though. Though I welcomed it at time, I put on my own growing issues, something into perspective. This stones remain here long after I recovered from bankruptcy, long after the burden of my part-time job had herniated my spine, long after I'd succumbed to the ennui for the godforsaken backwater town, where a couple oversized rocks were, for some reason, considered a major tourist attraction. Why are you saying that? I know some wonderful tourist attractions that are literally just rocks. When the night fell, I brought May back to her parents' farm. So we walked in silence. I clutched my book bag tightly under my arm. My gaze wandered off into the fields, these endless fields of impervious green that tapered off into nothingness. I thought to myself how strange they were, enduring with a perfect geometric flatness as though they had been carefully sleeked out by the trowel of an obsessive god. Nice, perfect! Oh no, they're rating me. They're rating me on my waifu powers. Oh no. God damn it. I woke to the furious ringing of the doorbell. I hurried downstairs, haphazardly dressed myself en route. I wondered for a second why my father wasn't home. He was a notoriously light sleeper. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a familiar face. It appeared far too excited to take her finger off from the bell. Please stop pressing that. The article, have you done it? I want it at the publishers by tomorrow. The semi-dormant mind was digging fruitlessly. The weekly progression article? Did you write it like I told you to? Tomorrow, I promise tomorrow. At the early hour, I didn't give the president of mine to throw up a fight. It better not be late. But never mind that, just so you've noticed that our cover article has been set the city candle alight. It turns out that the farm assault wasn't an isolated incident. Mayor Linda had been receiving signals of worker mistreatment throughout the Then last year the incident occurred. And now that the police invasion has come up with nothing, council members began to openly question the mayor's efficiency. Do you realize our publication could cost him his career? Most of her words flew straight by me. All I remember was that MILF who had a dog. Honestly, that was 90% of what I'm thinking about right now in this game. We should really get to school. I hate that the MILF isn't an option. On our way to school, Ina wouldn't stop lecturing me on the various intricacies of the municipal government. The trip felt forever. Voices within the mayor's own party are pushing for him to step down. They consider this incident a telltale sign of his continuing incompetence. Members of his own party? Wouldn't that be counterintuitive? Well, it's complicated. Abbott Island Reformed, commonly referred to as AIR, is the largest party in the town council. Its electorate consists of farmers and members of the church. But with its size comes inner division. Of the 8 seats the party currently occupies, 4 are held by members that represent the agricultural sector. Generally come from agrarian families and serve as advocates for the farming enterprises. The other 4 seats, however, are held by the Cooper faction. These are members of the church, mainly descendants of the original inhabitants of the island. The current leader is John, Rika's father. Whatever happened to the separation of church and state? Ina pressed on, ignoring my remark. Even though they're in the same party, there's tension between the Cooper faction and the agrarians. The Cooper faction has always tried to implement strictly isolationist policy for the town, letting in as few outsiders as possible. The agrarians are on outside labor during harvest season, are generally more welcome towards newcomers. The current mayor of Abersource is an agrarian, so the Cooper faction is weaponizing this affair in order to strengthen their position within the party. AIR has always been exerted undisputed influence of the town's administrative affairs. You can tell their power has never been contested by an actual free press. I believe there's so much more to be uncovered on this matter. I'd like to ask Risa on a date. Yeah! Woo! Ina, girl, you're my wing person, man. Amazing. Thank you, Ina. Suddenly, I was wide awake. I have absolutely no intention of fucking doing that. Oh, we'll see. We arrived at school early. I'm gonna head to the office to change into that terrible uniform. I'll see you in class. Suddenly she dove behind me as if she was hiding from something. She began to speak in a hushed voice. Look, he's here, of all people. There. Go talk with her. And with these words, she slid into a nearby entranceway. Abe, what a pleasant surprise. Hoping you've been setting in nicely. I see you're part of the early bird club. We practice up with the swimming team on Wednesday mornings. There's a big championship coming up soon. Fuck, what's this game called? Phone, what are you talking about? I'm totally not trying to get one waifu. No, totally. One Lily has learning problems and one I'm angry as fuck with. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me? Oh, okay. Okay. I think I understand what's happening right now. Okay. Ran her fingers through her long black hair. I'm so glad you're getting involved with the school paper. Personally, I don't really read it, but my father was absolutely lyrical about the cover piece you ran on the last issue. Can't stop gushing about how much student journalism has improved over the last years. I laugh clearly. Yeah, I'm totally understanding what's happening here. Well, he said your paper's an asset to the town. Come on, there's time left for classes to start. Let's take a walk over the school grounds. So you know this place used to be an island, right? I nodded. I said the words I nodded. I didn't nod. In the early 1800s, it was home to a community of about 400 fishing families. Life was tough, but they made an honest living. Pre-tropical storms raged through Ala Bay. The islanders protected Abbott against the waters, but erected long barriers built out of wood poles. But during storms, the barriers suffered, and the islander would have to rely on donations from the mainland to restore them. In the 1858, the high turbulent year weather-wise, the Elizabeth's flood swept through the Low Countries, leaving a wake of annihilation behind. Part of Abbott's fishing fleet was destroyed, most of the barrier washed away. Not much later, the government announced the full evacuation of the island. The Abbotts were rehoused on the mainland. They said it was due to increased threat of storms and the Hyperionquasar restoring the wind barrier. However, some suspect the persistent poverty and inbreeding on Abbott played an equally important role on the insistence to evacuate. She smiled a mischievous smile. So in the end, the island was left deserted? Not really. A group of 200 islanders stayed behind, all hardline members of a small Reformity congregation. The Church of Abbott had recently been ejected from the mainstream branch of the low-cost Protestantism. These were troubled times, theologically speaking, and the church schisms were a common occurrence. Anyway, the seceded congregation vowed to remain on the island. The government did nothing to stop them. For close to a century, they lived isolated lives, very little contact with the outside world. Until reclamation of the marshmallow began in the 1980s, suddenly found itself floating in a sea of fertile soil. Farmers from the mainland migrated to Abbotsford to cultivate the fields. But the original habits of Abbotsford, descendants of the islanders who had seceded in 1858, absorbed the influence of Newfoundlanders with sorrow in their eyes. There's a tension between the two. The farmers work hard, but they're blind to our heritage. A grave expression appeared on her face. The islanders were honest people. They never covered up a crime. Bell rang for the first time we head back to school. By the time we'd make it up the stairs, class had already started. She turned to me. Do you know what's interesting? After the Elizabethan flood, Abbott was never struck by the storm again. So the entire evacuation had been for nothing? You could say so. Why do I keep looking down at the thighs? Come on. This is a problem. Some of the more self-righteous members of Congress, especially if the floods were punished by a higher power. There was no more need for them after all those subversive elements had been extracted from the community. The kingdom of heaven is like a net to sea. They gathered fish of all kinds. It was full. The fishermen hauled it ashore. When they sat down, they filled the fish vessel, but cast it the bad way. Anyway, I have to go to class now. I just really love talking to you. Also, I was wondering. She paused for a second, tenderly wetting her hair through her fingers. Would you mind going out for dinner this Saturday evening? My parents are attending a wedding. I'd hate to eat alone. I could detect a hint of anxiety in her voice. I'd be glad to, if I survive my prep rounds. Yeah. Oh my god! 2 birds with 1 stone! She asked me out! Fuck yeah! That's great! I'd love to learn more about you. I was struck with the candor of her sudden proposal, so struck that I had no choice but to agree, even though I realized I was playing directly into Ina's plans. Then it's a date. See you next Saturday? With a nod of her head, she said goodbye. Ina pulled me aside the moment classes ended. She seemed nervous. So? I shook my head in English. What? She complimented you on your journalism? Yeah, she would. Wouldn't she? So tell me what you guys discussed. Though I still had vivid recollections of Rika coiling her hair, I had to admit the particularities of our conversation this morning had long faded out of my brain. We talked about the town for a bit, and I thought for a second. She said the Owl Abbot was vacated during the 19th century due to inbreeding. Does it make any sense to you? Sure, the people were ravaged by storms at the time. Only a small community remains. Well then, I don't think she told me anything of interest. Huff. I should be the judge to that. Awkward silence. Think the newsroom was a mess. Every inch of floor face was filled with boxes, newspaper clippings, scattered pieces of clothing. So Ina, I was wondering, what? When will you introduce me to the other editors on the staff? She flinched. It's not a school paper. I never said it was. We have got other editors, but they mostly work from home. It's not like I could write everything myself. I appeared to have a hidden nerve and began to regret my line of questioning, so I dug through my mind something to cheer up. You know what? There was something strange Rika told me this morning. What? Something about the church schism just before the island was evacuated. She was a little vague on the matter. Suspected Ina appeared unnaturally interested. She just hopped on top of the table, stared me down. A schism, you say, in the Church of Abbot? Rika said it was the reason for some of the islanders staying behind. And again, browsing her phone while a soft murmur ticked from her lips. A church schisms? That seems highly unlikely, if only... There, I found something. It's called Theologic Qualities into the Congregation's Church of Abbot. Is it relevant? Some more typing. I'm not sure. It could be. Inquiries were a big deal in the Reformed Church at the time. They could point towards corruption or severe theological divergences. The thing is, the Church of Abbot and the Cougar family have always held a pivotal position of power in this town. Her eyes were glowing. Any dirt on them, old or new, would surely cause a stir, much more than any aberrant migration pattern of insects ever will. She turned attention back to her phone. There it is. I have a copy of the Municipal Archive of Princeburg. That's less than 20 minutes away by train. We'll go there on Friday. On Friday? Don't we have school on Friday? Oh, this is more important than school. And besides, we're allowed time off for mandatory club activities. As we headed back downstairs, I know she was trembling with excitement. Let's head over to my house for now. I want to run some ideas by you. I wasn't in the mood to protest. Okay, sure, I'll go to your house, Miss Strips-a-lot. Her house was a well-kept appearance to it. Sterile, almost. As she led me into the living room, I noted a hint of sadness in her eyes. After prying, she told me her mother was touring at the moment. She was a famous conductor, Mina Mengelberg. Dinkelberg. Currently serving as the musical director in the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. I told her I'd seen her name on a playbill once, when I was still living in the city. You guys notice the real human picture in this anime? This is my room. I hate it though. Empty houses give me the creeps. That's why I'm usually at the office. She produced a large book from her bag, the same one I had seen her reading at school. I'm reading Oswald Spengler. I'm reading Oswald at the moment. Insert title here. I haven't made it past the second chapter. She folded it to a page she marked with a slip of paper. A boundless mass of human being flowing in a stream without banks. Upstream, a dark past, whereas the downstream of the future, human history. She closed the book, handed it to me. Modern man's yearning for infinite progression is Faustian in nature. Spurned by his endless aspirations, humanity involuntarily seals its own fate. We have left the natural state far behind. We couldn't return even if we wanted to. Being has altered irredeemably. I'm sorry I dragged you down here. I know you're not really interested in this newspaper business. It's just... I talk in myself whenever I'm catching on to something great. If I don't have someone else to talk to, it drives me insane. I gave her a reassuring nudge through the window. I guess you know my predicament. She smiled. You know, I have a feeling this church piece is going to be big. Bigger than anything we've done before. Bigger than the Sanford House event. What's the Sanford House event you keep talking about? It was up before I realized what I was doing. Didn't I tell you? Our expose on the Sanford House event was our finest hour, the scoop that truly put the Sunday habit on the map. I was around this time last year when the Evening Mirror, a smutty tabloid, published a series of compromising photographs of an influential politician. The photos were taken inside a notorious cabaret club where he was being courted by a dancing girl. The politician in question is named Leopold Marquis of Abbott. To be precise, a member of the nobility. He still holds a seat in the city council. Leopold hails from the old lineage of Lords of the Isle. He has quite a reputation as a party animal, and for the reason, the incident initially blew over without much ado. But 4 months later, received an anonymous package at the office. It was another set of photographs, placing Marquis Leopold at a lavish party inside Sanford House, one of the oldest mansions in Abbotsford. There was more girls present during the occasion. The Marquis appeared to be fully drunk off his ass. In a note, the anonymous source explained that Marquis Leopold had been carrying classified documents on him that night he attended the house. After the hedonistic party, the source wrote, his briefcase and the documents it contained were nowhere to be found. We ran an absolute bombshell of an article. Apparently, the Marquis had indeed lost classified papers on the fateful night, and to make matters worse, he hadn't notified the council of their disappearance. It became a lot harder to forgive the Marquis' decadent escapades when the political integrity of the community was at jeopardy. The corporate family initiated a charge declaring that the Marquis' conduct was unworthy of a Christian political party. They had a field day with the whole affair. So did Leopold lose his seat over this? He did. He's an elected official after all, so the therefore mentioned protected by the Constitution. However, his positions within AIR has become precarious since the affair. Until he returned after the elections. She stopped a moment, looking down, then up at me again. I'm probably boring you. It's okay, you should be on your way home now. Thank God. I'm gonna eat some more Spengler before going to bed. Thank God. Is that Spengler? Is Splinger her husbando? Is this what's happening right now? I spent most of Thursday afternoon loitering around town, trying to find something or someone to write my weekly progress article about. Sadly, as I searched in vain, it began to dawn on me why Ina had unloaded this piece on me. Alvesworth really didn't have any progress to report. Then a flash at the corner of my eye. No, move away, hellhound. I'm not even working today. Virus, leave the man alone. As soon as Miss Voorhees, her last name is Voorhees. Why didn't I catch on to that? Dog became as docile as the lamb. Hi, Karen. Thanks for coming to my rescue again. I feel like he's warming up to you. He didn't even bite you this time. Yes, going from biting me to yelling at me. So what brings you here today? It's making me write an article. It can be about any person or event in town. The thing is, it's due today. You wouldn't be referred to the weekly progress with you. That's a local favorite. Ina must have been a lot of faith in you to entrust such an important piece of journalism. I could tell she was concealing an impish smile. Anyway, if you want, you can interview me. I may help my re-election if I get some positive press out. Maybe you could write the whole thing for me? She burst out laughing. Come on, let's go someplace where we can talk. She took me to fucking dinner. Yeah, woo. Fuck the other dates. I got the date with the MILF. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now we're getting progress. Real progress here, boys. Small town politics can be a headache. That piece you guys published last week, to be fair, it's caused quite a bit of commotion. She adopted a more serious demeanor. Let me state first and foremost that our party has always been a proponent of the free exchange of labor. Abbotsford has some of the largest farms in the region, so come August there's always a huge demand for seasonal workers. What party are you in? Abbott Island Reform. Laborers come from all over the Low Countries, many even from further afield. The work offers them an escape from poverty. It is our greatest interest that they're treated well. The thing is, not everybody is as welcoming towards the outsiders. Over the last years, a new politician movement has been growing in the membership. Flock 05! They're called. They were founded in the 2005, you know? Flock 05 takes a more cautious stance on labor mitigation. They claim that seasonal workers constitute an unnecessary burden on our local infrastructure. There was a small incident not long after the party was founded in which a group of farm workers had been caught stealing food from local stores. It was just petty theft, but Flock really went to town with it. They managed to convert the incident in a large electoral windfall. Do you think people from Flock 05 were behind the murder? No, and I don't think you want writing that. It's just that the subject matter is more complicated than it seems. AIR has always protected the rights of all farm workers, but the general attitude has been shifting lately. What about the Kuiper faction? The Kuiper what? The Kuiper faction in your party. What's their stance on labor mitigation? I'm afraid you misformed. AIR is one party. We don't have factions. She began speaking in a hushed voice. Look, I understand you guys feel involved. I'll tell you more, but you have to consider it off the record. I smiled. No problem. I have more than enough material as is. Honestly, I just want to talk with this pretty lady some more, you get me? This is a very painful incident for our mayor. The farm murder occurred on property that belonged to his brother. Okay. Now, several voices are implying that the police investigation into the abuse was intentionally halted by the mayor, Lyndon, and the chief of police. But I know the mayor. He wouldn't do such a thing. He hates his brother. That guy is fucking cunt. After the assault, the victim's co-workers returned to their hometowns. They weren't available for further questioning. The police closed the case because they really didn't have any more leads. And the mayor's brother? What kind of person is he? I'm not sure. She paused. He works his people hard, a little too hard at times, but he's not a sadist. He wouldn't do that to anyone. Anyway, I really need to get back to work. If you guys want, you're welcome to come over to my place for coffee sometime. I can imagine Ina would love a source inside the council. Ina! I found a hot lady. I found us nice leads. We left school during lunch break. Outside the commuting hours, the train to Bristol only ran sporadically. So we had to rush to make time. I loved your article. She appeared reluctantly to admit it, like a child enjoying broccoli. It had its flaws, of course. It's just I never thought about using the weekly progressive section that way for actual journalism. It just happened to bump into Karen, you know? No, I just happened to be going by her house and got attacked by the dog again. I mean, it definitely wasn't a thing or anything. We shot past miles and miles of farmland. Ina began murmuring in herself. Haven't seen any bees this year. There were a few last year, but none this summer. Just crickets now. You know, they kept me up last night. The crickets in their maddening song, like thousand voices crying out in terror, as if they can sense their impending death once winter comes. If winter ever comes. I shrugged. I spoke to the archivist on the phone. He confirmed that the publication should be there. It's part of a larger collection of church inquiries that were commissioned by the Presbytery of the Low Countries after the secession of 1834. The Reformed Church has always been prone to schisms. In 1834, however, 3 congregations seceded at once, out of the dissatisfaction with liberal tendencies with Reformed theology at the time. During the subsequent decades, more churches followed in their wake, to the point where the remaining pastors felt the time had come to take action. The Reformed Church isn't a centrally coordinated institution due to the potential state of affairs. However, the remaining pastors agreed to converge in what was called the Presbytery of the Low Countries. The Presbytery resolved to rout out churches that appeared to stray from mainstream Protestant theology. By proactively excluding troublesome congregations, the church hoped to end the broader trend of insurgency once and for all. The document will be consulting of the church inquiry commissioned by the very presbytery. It pertains to the congregation of Abbot Island, led by the Reverend John Cooper. It would be eventually led to their expulsion from the Reformed Church. This all took place in 1857, not long before the evacuation of the island. Is John Cooper? Yes, her great-great-great-great-grandfather, if I'm not mistaken. Did I never tell her I got a date? I made her way towards the archives. The city was noisy as usual. Wrapped around the sounds of countless visible cars, each attempting to find its way across the chaotic post-war street plan. It appeared completely amorphous to me, like an amalgamation collage of leftover parts in other cities that lacked any single differentiating feature. Like Brand Hotel. That's my favorite hotel. Let me tell you, did you know it's Brand Hotel? The municipal archives were curated by the University at Brunswick. We made our way through the few galleries and natural history until we reached the library. God, man, Without as much looking around, Eno went up to the archivist and asked him for the document she was looking for. He eyed her up with a bemused glance in his eyes. So you're the students that made the reservation for the theological inquiries? Sure, is there a problem? He chuckled. Oh, not at all. Let me go get it. Here it is. It isn't available for loan, so you have to consult it when at our reading tables. We sat down. Is that a hentai? I mean, a dojin? Is that porn? Is that really a porn thing right there? I'm just gonna headcanon. That's porn right there. Why is there porn here? From the moment she opened the heavy, leather-clad book, a musty fragrance poured from its yellow pages. In a hushed voice, she began to read. You're excused to read silently if you want. Let me skip ahead a bit. I don't believe in old writings, which is very weird because I'm a harpy historical resource. I believe in oral history telling, not this fancy book. Thomas stayed at the manse. The Cooper family provided him with food and dry clothes. After his dire journey, he described Reverend Cooper as a dignified gentleman. He takes a special note from Johan's daughter, Hendrika, a charming though secretive young woman with flowing black hair. Then it skips over to Sunday morning, where Thomas will attend his first service on the island. He attended service early next morning. Observant proceeded in great solemnity and commemorative of two fishermen in commentorium of two fishermen who had succumbed to the sea last week. The sermon contained many nautical themes, alluding to both the calling of the fishers and the beast Leviathan. However, I believe this is to be nothing out of the ordinary for seafaring communities. All Monday morning, the two men conversed with each other, delving deeply into Cooper's religious teachings. Let me skim through the next part quickly. Yeah, I'm skipping through the next part. That's strange. There's more to report. He skips over a few days, then recounts the last meeting two men had on a Friday evening. I'm now confident to write that Reverend Cooper and I have reached a mutual degree of understanding. Cooper has further clarified his theological positions to me, and I'm fully confident now that his documents are wholly in accordance with the three forms of unity, in no way contradicting our shared Reformation confession. I believe Cooper is a fine man who operated as a good shepherd for his congregation. Our prior misunderstandings appear to have derived from my own ignorance of the local culture and customs, not from any fundamental unorthodoxy within the religious teaching of the Church of Abbott itself. In conclusion, I therefore recommend that no punitive or exclusory action is taken place against Reverend Cooper or his congregation. She put the book down. That's strange. It sounds pretty tame if they got in trouble for this. It does, doesn't it? All of a sudden change of tone at the end? I don't understand. The sources state that the Reformed Church of Abbott was erected based on this report. However, the conclusion doesn't point in that direction at all. There would be no idea why this would cause for Abbott to be cast out of the presbytery. This trip has been a waste of time. Let's head back to the station. Lethargically, Eno went to return the book. We were on our way to exit when a figure approached us. Hey, it's cool you guys take an interest in those pieces. It's stylistic bookkeeping, but as I said, these things haven't been requested in decades. You must be history buffs, right? Eno eyed him suspiciously. We're conducting invested journalism into the Church of Abbott. God damn it. Abbott? He went silent for a while, though, trying to remember something. I guess the reports on them is pretty boring. You wouldn't say. She pulled me by the sleeve, signaling them we should leave. I remember there's more to that story, though. There should have been an addendum somewhere, some notes that were left out of the public report. With this, he appeared to have caught Ina's attention. They're pretty rare, though. I believe only 2 copies were ever printed. And where may we find these copies? Good question. Headed back to his desk, where he spent some time browsing the catalog. One is the private library of the Council of Reformed Churches. You could try petitioning them, however. And the other? The other was sent to the Isle of Abbott, 1857. Town had the right to know why their church was being ejected from the presbytery. If it hasn't been pruned from their collection, it should still be in the town archives. Well, that's all we need to know, dear man. You could have saved us a lot of time by telling this up front. And with these words, she was out the fucking door. I thanked him for making me not the only person alone in that building with her. On the way back to stage, we passed a small and decent-looking theater. You don't nudge me. Look, it's the nightclub I told you about, the one where the Marquise was sported. Looks as grimy as ever. We were just in time to catch the 6 o'clock train. Though our return verge, I could hear her mumbling to herself in excitement. Okay, we got this. Saturday came. I was set to work. Everything was noticeably smoother than last time. I was stricken by the sad realization that I must be becoming an experienced paperboy. God damn it. After my work day, I returned home for a shower and change of clothes, after which I broke a TV on my father. Brought up how he hadn't been home much lately, and he told me not to exaggerate. It was actually I who was away all the time. Though I doubted that was the case. I sensed there was little point in arguing. Like a diner. This is a different diner from the fancy restaurant Karen took me. Mrs. Voorhees. I'm going to call her Mrs. Voorhees now, because Taryn is a tainted word. Are you hungry? We should order some side dishes. The fresh anchovies here are excellent. I nodded in agreement. As I settled in, Rika stared at me, beaming in playful anticipation. She let out a restrained cough. So I heard you've been hanging out with May again? Your spies are doing excellent work. She laughed. Oh no, it's not like that this time. May told me herself. In fact, she hasn't stopped talking about you since last Tuesday. Your misadventures among the millies and such. Gently, she began brushing her fingers through her onk's hair, and subtle, repetitive motions excluded to assault and coom, which you were comforting a frightening creature. And, you know, I think that may not be so bad. It's good for her to have someone to converse with on her level. What do you mean on her level? She giggled. Oh, don't take it the wrong way. It's just that May's always been a bit of a loner. Because she never attended regular school, she hasn't had the chance to make friends among her peers. But for you, an outsider, it should be the same. Just let me know if she becomes a burn, okay? I nodded, not really sure if that point had already been reached. But tell me, how did your work day go? No big headline this week? I tried to feign offense at her statement. How dare you say such a thing? Didn't you read our exclusive report on the idiosyncratic migration patterns of the hairy hawk or dragonfly? I will. She turned her attention towards the laminated menu card, her bottom lip pounding in disinterest. The restaurant wasn't anything fancy, Italian name only. Not true, there's maybe pasta there. Don't think that headline will cause any trouble this time. She looked up at me. And that's good, I don't want any trouble down here. That girl Ina, she really attracts trouble, you know? I feel like she seeks it out at times. We have a gentleman in town who caused an embarrassment last year. Ina, of course, wrote all about it. She flapped her hand rapidly as if shaking off her disgusting serpents. To think she considers himself nobility. Nobility? You wouldn't be foreign to the Marquis of Abbott, would you? Oh my, Ina has been mentoring you very well. The current Lord of the Isle is quite the character indeed, though I wouldn't say he deserves this title. From the late Middle Ages onward, his clan ruled the island. They owned most of the land over here, but only to collect taxes. They lived on the mainland, on a large estate near the Hagu, and to finance the lavish lifestyle among the nation's elite, they leached on the poor villagers and clergymen of Abbott. But the lords never contributed anything of substance. She smiled. You can imagine how distraught they were when the decision fell to evacuate in 1858. With the Fishers leaving Abbott, there was no source of income left. The waitress came to bring her side dishes. Stay out of poverty, the clan sold about half of the island to Church of Abbott, whose members remained on the island. Their glory days were indisputable over. They had been living frugally in their castle, which had been crumbled from neglect. Things changed, though, after the reclamation. In 1947, when the marsh topper fell dry, Marquis Louise of Abbott, one of the first to return to Abbotsford, to lay claim of the part of the island that his family was still legally entitled to. Louise played an important role in developing Abbotsford in the 20th century. It was in his interest that housing prices rose, so that his family could collect rent again. He turned Abbotsford into a maple agrarian hub, inviting farmers from all over the Low Countries to move over here. He had a little boy, something. She paused for a moment to move from the plate of fish in my direction. I can imagine the native population was happy with that. They weren't. Initially, there were lots of strife as more and more farmers arrived. The newcomers began to outnumber the original islanders. Now, politically, Ayr has always maintained complete control of the town council. The islanders feared that the farmers would form their own political movement that would be able to seize power. So how did that work out? Well, it wasn't bad at all. Since the evacuation, the church was the second largest landowner on the isle. The inflated house prices were good for us too. In the end, Marquis Louis played an important role in the incantation of two sides. The agrarians were welcome within Ayr as long as they agreed to not occupy more than half the seats in the castle. This means the church retained control of the estate of the affairs of the island, while the newcomers still felt represented. So this is how the two factions within the town council arose? Ayr doesn't have factions. All political operations are in the best interest of the community. She winked. Except for Leopold, of course. He's a blemish on our town. I wouldn't mind you writing another article on him. Let me know if you need more info. I was beginning to realize that her loose tongue didn't necessarily stem from the wine or the amicable atmosphere. It was like the information she was disclosing was being carefully measured out. Wait, are we drinking? Have we been drinking this whole time? Should I have been drinking? Should this have been a drunk stream? Is that what I'm learning right now? God damn it, why wasn't this a drunk stream? We sat in silence, eating fish, while gradually grew darker outside. Then she gently wiped her mouth with her napkin and looked at me. Is there anything you'd like to know? Is there anything you'd like to tell me? Oh, plenty. It's just that I'd like to stay one step ahead of Ina's games. Well, I was surprised at her sudden change in manner. I managed to remain collected. It's getting very late. I have to be in church tomorrow by 9 a.m. She smiled, a faraway smile. Can you imagine what it's like? A reclamation like that. Can you imagine how it'd feel? Been living your whole life on a secluded island, then suddenly you witness waters drop around you till all that's left is endless wastes of stinking marshes. The people here had spent their lives in the midst of a majestic sea. But in a period of less than a year, all that was reduced to a swamp stretched with decaying fish corpses. She stared at her silence. There have always been higher powers that decided over the people of Abbott, be it the Lord's national government, the presbytery of churches. But through their inhumane treatment of the islanders, they have sown the vines which grapes of wrath would grow. It left them feeling futile and angry, helpless against the forces that be. She sighed. For some reason, it strengthened their faith. They realized that they had to rely on a far higher power to veil them from the tyrannical pharaohs. They have habits to truly feel they are God's people. Without asking, she impaled the last of the fish on a fork, bringing it to her mouth in one motion. After swallowing, she removed her monologue. During the reclamation of the washbowl, the swordsman built a strong embankment that could keep the water out. Incidentally, strange reports would emerge. I looked up for my drink. The men would experience an impromptu storm, a sudden cessation of roaring eddies that be able to work for as long as they persist. The thing was, these storms were highly localized. They would even occur in the most tranquil of days, even when the gust of wind was in the air. I think they ascribed the phenomenon to ocean currents, sent wayward by the altering flow of the great rivers. However, it doesn't sound like that at all. What these workmen described. They spoke about raging tempests and huge waves. She shook from her purse to place of 50 on the table. Anyway, this has been a great time, Abe. I'd love to do this again. I thanked her and told her I felt the same way, and I reached for my wallet to pay for my share. Save your hard-earned money. My dad said he'd cover the tab. I grumbled appreciatively. Are you telling me that your dad approves of me? God damn, we're in, man! We were in! I was working at 9 by church bells, after which I fell back asleep until I was working for a second time by the bells for the noon service. For a brief moment, my heart went out to Rika, who was likely unexpectedly to be present and presentable for all of today's services, until I dozed off again and be awoken conclusively this time by a mysterious ticking on my bedroom window. When I made out of bed to open the curtains, I saw May standing outside, dressed to head to toe in immaculate black. She told me. Rika finally told me. I poked and pestered her through the service until she finally agreed to give me your address. I think she was embarrassed in front of the congregation. I tried throwing stones at each of the windows. Isn't your father home? I grumbled a reply, still half asleep. It's Sunday afternoon. Let's go on an adventure. Have you had lunch yet? Don't worry, I made some peppermints from... I stole from the church. It's mints. Everyone loves mints. It's my favorite meal. In my groggy state, I tailed her through the deserted streets. From her determined gait, I could tell she was leading me somewhere. It wasn't long before we left our drab suburban estate to enter a patch of brushwood that bordered the village. She is still in her nice church clothes. Stopped for a second, handed me some mints. They stood out chalky white against her jet black dress. So what's with the depressing outfit? You had a funeral this morning? Oh no, we always dress in black for church. If there'd be a funeral, they'd make me wear a veil. She placed the mint in her mouth and took off again. On the other side of the trees lay a rolling meadow. It was not far beyond here that the landscapes made a sudden steep drop into the endless stretches of farmland that formed the Revenant's former sea. Hurry up! I could barely make out her golden hair in the blinding autumn sun. It was as if we reached the part to be destined of our journey. You led me to a pile of stones again? Not just stones, a dolmen! Can't you tell by the way they're stacked? They're smaller than the megalithes she showed me last week. The stones didn't seem piled into a tiny abode. Excitedly, she pulled my hand. Look, S and S! It does look like an S. It does look like an S. Doesn't it? Why am I an asshole to everyone besides the blonde girl? Maybe it's because she lost her brother. So I feel like she's been through a lot. That's probably it. Fering May had brought me here as her personal translator. I walked over the glory tourist signs that stood a few yards from the Arcade site. Dolmen M4, commonly referred to as the S Dolmen, likely built as a megalith tomb for the member of the Swiffer band culture, dated around 3500 BC. I skipped over some further text. A salient feature of the M4 is the S-shaped pergolith engraved on its southeastern side. Though resembling the letter S, it was carved long before the emergence of the Proto-Syntactic alphabet. This rune likely depicts a housemark, a type of symbol that was used to identify clans during the late Neoglyphs. Though the discovery of the petroglyphs inside the megalithes formed from the period were not uncommon, the prominent placement of the S-shaped rune on the dolmen's outer side exterior is unique in the Low Countries. May stood there, sinking down in disappointment. So the S is not an S? I ignored her. These stones stood quite close to the shore when this was still an island. Do you know Abbotsford used to be an island? No? She looked at me all glassy-eyed. You didn't know? What do these people teach you? No. Not an island. Abbott was connected to the mainland once. Her voice was no longer than, huh? And before I knew it, her eyes turned a cloudy pearl. She had drifted off, a faint smile on her face. We were playing here on the beach, Sigurd and I. I had 4 younger brothers at first, but 3 of them died in infancy. Sigurd survived, though. Sigurd was the strongest. We dragged a fallen tree far into the water that day to pretend it was a sea monster. Ari knew he would be leaving soon. I remembered his hair, how it shone bright in the sun on that last summer day. Her expression darkened. Sigurd, I prayed so long for your return. I would pray here by the stones. I prayed to the gods who dwell on the immersible depths. Sigurd was sent away to live with an allied tribe. It was a ritual we performed whenever an eldest son turned 11. It was meant to strengthen religious bond and to prevent madness. Sigurd, I prayed so many nights. Demet remained silent for a very long time until it wasn't the sun began to set the color her eyes returned. During that moment, she looked vulnerable, helpless, as though she couldn't begin to fathom the atrocities of that episode, that mysterious absence that had come over her. I helped her to her feet, supporting her as we slowly, wordlessly commenced our journey home. Not looking to run to anyone in town, we took the long route home, around the perimeter of the former island. After a while, I became aware of May's gentle humming in my ear. By the time we had made it to her parents' farm, she appeared to have returned to her good spirits. Thank you for bringing me home, Abe. I had a great time at the shore. Though I was caught off guard at the time, I was happy to see she regained her happiness. Do you want to come into the lake with me someday? The water should still be warm, like summer. She appeared almost drunk with fatigue. Will you come with me, Abe? The lake's so big, it's like an ocean almost. I'd love to. Thank you, Sigurd. Cheerfully, I bade her goodbye and headed home towards town. Police sirens swirled in the distance as drew closer to town. I followed them into Main Street, where I was nearly knocked down by a small, dark figure. There you are! Finally, we need as many reporters to the scene as possible. Scene? Didn't you read my message? There's an attack on Karen Voorhees' house. What? No! No! Not Mrs. Voorhees! Perfect, perfect, perfect. Woo! I did it! Not Mrs. Voorhees! Oh man. Thank you for playing the early access version of it. Full version is planned for spring summer of 2022. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the game. You can contact us via leaves.score. Okay, so for credits, please check the about section. Here, don't worry, I got you. I'm the scrolling wheel right now. I'm the scrolling wheel. I got this. Okay, so honestly, that was pretty good.